What is up, you guys? We are back with yet another amazing movie. And today's movie starts in Moscow, Russia. We see our protagonist Vincent Riker giving his team directives as they're about to pull off a very dangerous mission and kidnap someone really important. Their target, Salim Alcazar, is buying off weapons on the black market to supply it to his father's soldiers to take down freedom fighters. After Riker informs his team of the situation, he tells them that they need to take Salim alive, but his employer Victor needs to be terminated. After receiving their mission objectives, we see just how good Riker's team is as they take out the entire security detail around the building and make their way inside. Once they make it in, they kill Victor and take Salim and escape the area using a catering truck. On the next scene, we see Riker and his team deliver Salim to the CIA, who hired them to perform this operation as the CIA didn't want to get their hands dirty. Weeks later in Canada, where Riker hides out, an arms dealer by the name of Carl Kess contracts him to do a job. Riker is not really psyched about this job and he doesn't want to do it, but the very slick and charismatic Carl Kess convinces him to. The specific mission Riker has now taken is supplying the same rebels Salim and his father were trying to take out with weapons so they can take down the government. Carl also tells Riker that there will be an observation team that goes with his team to make sure everybody's interests are met. And where are they going to run these guns for the rebels, you might ask? Chernobyl. Yeah, that Chernobyl. And when Riker tells his team this, they're not really excited to go to a place with nuclear radiation poisoning, but since Riker already took the deal, they don't really have a choice in the matter. And before they fly to Chernobyl, since they were using Riker's plane, the observation team makes it to the rendezvous point, and amongst them, their leader, a CIA agent Hayes, who hates Riker very much. On the plane flight to Chernobyl, Val, one of Riker's team members and his sniper, is feeling very concerned about this observation team, and she talks to Shiro about her concerns, who tells her that this observation team is probably here to kill them once they finish doing their jobs. She tells Shiro that she wants to tell Riker about this, but Shiro tells her that Riker has probably figured it out. And our next scene proves this, as Riker calls Agent Hayes into the cockpit and confronts her about his worries that her observational team is gonna snuff them out once they do the job. And here we also find out why Hayes hates Riker so much, as she tells him that she hates him because he's a traitor to his country. And during their conversation, Agent Hayes lets Riker know that even though she wants to see him dead, there's really no compensation she'll get out of it, and since him and his team are considered the best, she tells him that she's never going to take that kind of risk and lose her men. When they land in Chernobyl, they assess their surroundings and they figure out that there's nobody around. And from this, Riker concludes that this is some kind of ambush. And it's also here in the movie that we discover that Carl Kess, a CIA agent and a general, are observing the entire team via the cameras that the observer team is wearing on their helmets. And it's also here where we observe something vague happening, as the general is anxious about starting an operation. We then see Carl Kess, who happens to be calling all the shots, telling people in the control room to send in pilots. Meanwhile, Riker and his team are more paranoid and anxious than ever as they think they're about to be ambushed. And to avoid any attacks from within the group, Riker pairs his team with the observation team 1-to-1 and they head out to scout the area. And as they were making their way through the abandoned buildings of Chernobyl, suddenly they start to receive fire. They all take cover, and Val manages to shoot the assailant, but whoever or whatever it was that she shot doesn't stop firing at them, and Grigori had to provide cover fire so that the rest can hide behind a corner. But as Grigori and one of the observational team members try to rejoin the rest, Grigori gets shot 3 times in the chest, and the guy that was paired with him dies. But fortunately for Grigori, he was wearing his vest and he survived the gunshots. But even though Riker and his team are still alive, they just can't figure out what was shooting at them. Agent Hayes thinks that there was more than one shooter, but Riker is a well-trained mercenary, and he realizes that it was just one person that was moving left to right and shooting at them. And our curiosity as to who or what the shooter is gets resolved as Shiro sneaks inside the building the shooter was at and discovers that the shooter was no man, it was actually a cyborg robot. Shiro tries to fight the robot to the best of his capabilities, but he gets overwhelmed and overpowered. And just in a matter of minutes, the rest of the team also discovers that they're being hunted down by a robot. After an incredibly intense firefight, both teams give it their all to take down the robot, but the robot still stands. Even after Riker blew up a gas tank at it, the robot was somehow still operational. As soon as they were about to finish off this robot, another robot comes up from behind and the team decides to make a run for it. It's here that it's revealed to us that these robots, these drones, are controlled by human pilots, and Karl Kess, the general, and the CIA are using Riker and his team as a training experiment to see how well these robots do in a real combat situation. The CIA also want to take out Riker and his team because Riker has done so many dirty missions for the CIA that now he has become a liability and knows too much. Speaking of Riker, as the rest of the team spread out and hide from the robots, he almost gets shot and killed by one of the robots until Agent Hayes intervenes and saves him. But Riker now realizes that the robots are picking their targets and avoiding the observational team for some reason. And the two that died just got on the line of fire, and the robots would have avoided them if they stayed away from Riker's team. Thinking that him and his team are the ones being targeted, Riker almost chokes Agent Hayes to death, but he soon realizes that she's being set up just as much as he is. Here we also learn that Shiro is still alive and was not killed by the robot he was fighting earlier, and thinking that there are only 2 robots left, and one of them is heavily damaged, Riker and Shiro decide to attack the other robot and tear it apart to see what they're actually dealing with. The team, who have now all paired off and are hiding from the robots, are making their way carefully so as to not be tracked, except for Dax, who shoots his partner in the foot and uses him as bait to draw out one of the robots, but later finds out that the robots are not actually attacking the observational team, as the guy he shot talks to the robot and gives away Dax's location. As the robot starts to fire at Dax and concentrates his fire on him, Val uses a depleted uranium shell and shoots the robot in the head and kills it. Meanwhile, the villains behind this operation are not liking the fact that their drones are being taken out so easily. Karl tries to reassure the rest that the first robot, or drone, was already pretty damaged and that the second one is going to take out the rest of the team, but seconds later, we see Riker and Shiro taking out the second robot by the help of Agent Hayes, who uses herself as a shield as the robot is not meant to attack her, giving Shiro a chance to ambush it, and as soon as he does, all 3 manage to shoot it down. Seeing the way they attack this specific robot, Karl figures out that Riker and his team are now onto them. Here in the movie, it's also made clear to us that Karl made people invest in this project where he designed these drone robots, as he is an arms dealer, and now this operation is a demonstration to show the US government and the CIA how good these drones are against a highly trained group of mercenaries. And if things go well for Karl and the robots manage to kill Riker's team, Karl Kess is gonna make a lot of money. And since this operation needs to go off without a hitch if he's gonna make any money, Karl activates all the robots he had stashed in Chernobyl to target Riker and his team. But the team was already fully aware of what was going on after Dax tortured one of the men that was with Agent Hayes, who was apparently aware of everything and was working for the CIA without Hayes' knowledge. Riker has discovered that there are now more robots after them, and he decides to go with guerrilla warfare and attack the robots one by one covertly. And so, together they start to hide and function as one unit and take out a lot of robots. Karl starts to get a little anxious when he sees his robots being taken out one by one, but he reassures the general and CIA agent Smith that Riker's team is gonna run out of bullets before he runs out of robots. And Karl also studies their method of attack, and he starts to switch up some tactics, and because of this, Riker and his team also switch up tactics and separate into 3 teams. But now that they were separated and already feeling tired from taking out all the robots that they did so far, Riker and his team start to get overwhelmed by the robots. Val gets shot in the leg by one of the robots, and Grigori jumps out the window with one of the robots from a 2-story building, and the rest of the team is also under attack, and things are not really looking good for them. After deliberating on what's actually happening, Riker starts to think about the word drone, because the word drone implies that there's a pilot, and if there's a pilot, there's probably somebody giving signals via the internet. And if there are signals being transmitted from somewhere, there's probably a satellite nearby for the robots to receive the signals to attack his team. By this theory, Riker and Agent Hayes decide to take a chance and go up one of the buildings and check for a satellite and find and destroy it before the robots kill off the rest of the team. As Hayes and Riker go up the building, we see how his team is completely overpowered by the robots, and how in just a matter of seconds, if he fails to shoot the satellite, which he actually did locate, every member of his team, including him and Hayes, will be snuffed out by the robots immediately. As the robots were already behind them trying to break through the door and kill them, Hayes starts to scream at Riker, telling him that he's not going to be able to make the shot as the satellite is so far off from their location. But Riker does indeed make the shot and destroy the satellite just in time before the robots killed any of his team members or him. As the movie wraps up, we learn that Grigori was the luckiest person in the movie, as he also survived the jump from the building, and we also learned that our villains were also in Chernobyl, and as they were trying to escape away in a chopper, Riker was already waiting for them at their location, and they finally face off. Riker uses his last bullet to take out the general, as this was the same general that used him in the past and got his team killed, and this is why Riker is now considered a traitor to his country. After shooting the general, Shiro backs up Riker, and a very interesting hand-to-hand combat happens between Shiro and Agent Smith and Carl Kess and Riker. Shiro easily kills off the CIA agent, and Riker overpowers Carl Kess but doesn't kill him and instead makes a deal for 20 million bucks. And our movie wraps up as Agent Hayes decides to join Riker and his team, and they all fly in their plane toward the sunset. And that is the conclusion for our movie today. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and I love you guys so much, and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye!